So you guys did your quality of life plan. So, and the environment is important in there. There's a process in the plan for adding new activities. And have a Congress coming up. So, are there new visions or new directions?
There's quite a bit. Well, so our quality of life plan in the southeast side has really taken on a life of its own.
Yes.
With our neighborhood Congress. You said you spoke to Jim Mulholland,
yeah.
Correct? So that's just been a wonderful model, and I think other neighborhoods may even follow, where literally the neighborhood itself has taken ownership of its quality of life plan.
Which is how it's supposed to be.
Yes.
That's the idea behind sustainable communities, is that there is support as once a plan is developed and implemented, but that ideally the residents and the neighborhoods involved in that quality of life plan take ownership of it and manage that and keep those initiatives moving forward.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think Jim Mulholland's done a great job of that. I'm pretty amazed at how much he's done in 3 years that he's been there.
One thing that with public space is just sort of taking inventory and managing the public space that we currently have, and really being a good steward of public space. I think that one thing that we all can attest to is when we get involved in these projects, and we get very excited about public space, and maintenance is always a factor. And sometimes people don't realize
and how much money,
and what the maintenance is involved. And so I think that that's one thing that just sort of maybe even taking a step back and understanding what is in our inventory of public space, and are we at the level of management in terms of maintenance that we need to be at, and if not, how can we make sure that those spaces are maintained, because they are an asset to the community. They're usable, so we just want to make sure that they sustain. So
a beautiful community. And you're engaged with neighborhood beautification. So what does a beautiful neighborhood look like? What is beauty here?
Well, I think every neighborhood tries to preserve some of its history. I think that is always a piece of a neighborhood beauty. I think that is always encompassed. But I think that depends on what that community is made up of, what it's comprised of, what assets are currently there. In Fountain Square, obviously, we are one of the 6 cultural districts in the city, and art is a very big piece of our culture here, and so you will see that throughout the neighborhood, whether it be public art, whether it be murals. So I think that is definitely something that defines beauty in our neighborhood here. I think when we try to assess what our assets are, our natural assets, I mean, of course, we are close to the waterway, and so that would be definitely something that would be considered beauty, I would think, one of our assets here.
Creative architecture.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the old architecture that was in many ways preserved because of the blight of the neighborhood, I feel like, because at a time when people were tearing down the old to build new, they weren't doing that here. So
they just weren't here.
That's right. Those guys weren't here. So it gave us a great opportunity to have some preservation of this old style and the old character, which was very nice. And I think also largely, people putting forth effort. It's a lot of work, and to work on and clean up and make your little corner the best that you can. And so there's a lot of neighbors who are doing that, and sometimes you have to go and put forth a little extra effort and clean up around some of the neighbors who don't do that. They all don't. There's a lot of renters in the neighborhood, and not to say that the renters universally don't, but they don't have that level of ownership in the property that you typically associate with a homeowner. But we have many of our renters that come out and work with us on our spring cleanups. So we do our neighborhood. We now have the West Square neighborhood that started up from a study circle, and one of our traditions we've been doing, one of the things that we want to do the most is a spring cleanup.
Yes.
Participating in part of the greater Indy cleanup. So we've done that for the last couple of
Yes.
years. This will be our third year that we've gotten the neighbors immediately around us involved in that, and they do come out. Most of the time, people get really excited about what you can put into a Packer truck.
Oh, yes.
Sometimes people don't understand you can put couches into a Packer truck and watch it get
Which is
demolished.
great. And the city is very generous with the lending out of their trucks and for footing the bill for that, which is wonderful that the city then stands behind the communities who want to be engaged and want to make a difference.
We in our neighborhood, we give out prizes at the cleanups for the most unusual trash that people have found.
Oh wow!
So
Yeah, that's a
just
great
little-
idea.
Little hint of
That's a fun
possibility.
No, because
for
we have
that.
in the past. I've seen a trash tree. Have you ever seen one of those? It sounds horrible, but it's actually been pretty interesting. Where when people do a cleanup, they pick out the most interesting items that were cleaned up in the trash, and they've created
Formed a tree.
just things to a structure to hang these trash items on, and the irony is sometimes the coolest items may even get stolen from the trash tree. So what was trash became art and now has become someone else's treasure.
Recycling at the
right.
ultimate
Yeah.
recycling
That's right.
thing. So
So that's a fun outlet, I think, to do
very,
that.
very, very.
And Jonathan and I, with Public Space, have been involved in a couple of, I think, kickstarting a couple of public space projects here in the neighborhood. One of them, when you talk about beauty and our neighborhood, is I think gateways are always important. Gateways can be a form of beauty, and they can be an identifying element. So people know that they're passing through, or they're entering into an area.
Yes.
So we have at Morris and Prospect down here, there is two,
The plaza.
Yeah,
The
well-
small plaza.
No,
No.
not a plaza. The banks where
the banks.
the old, what would you call it? Not a turnpike, but the old, it would be like a cloverleaf exit, which is essentially original NDOT cloverleafs.
Yeah.
Was when they took Pennsylvania and Madison and took it
Madison runs
over
right, yeah.
Morris. So they depressed Morris Street, took out a whole neighborhood, removed homes, just so there wouldn't have to be a stoplight at Morris and Madison. So now it's a big open green space, but we wanted to take advantage because that's also a major artery
lot
that
of
comes in and
traffic.
out of the neighborhood. So those steep banks that we took advantage, wanted to make something visual there. So we worked with the neighborhood and worked with KIB, worked with the city, and we planted
And through Lily Dave
trees.
Service as well.
Yeah.
Lily Dave Service to clean it up. We had trees
CSX.
and juniper along those banks.
Smart for Juniper. Good.
We're hoping
Finally.
someday.
Finally. Okay.
The plan was that the juniper would grow in and make it a low maintenance site.
Yes.
But really what it is, we've discovered, is a very large planting bed that has to be weeded. But
yes.
the juniper keep getting bigger and bigger.
So
And our hope
Yeah.
is that someday there will be very little weeding there. But we're not there yet.
I agree. What I see about the juniper, just with my plant background, and it would be an opposite, but they gather trash. But I think that's a good thing because then the trash isn't anyplace else.
Ah,
Just
Yeah.
for a different perspective. And so where you're talking about is actually by the DPW
Yes.
code
That's
enforcement.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
then the old fire station where the park rangers
Yes.
are
And
and
the-
all of that area.
and the
And then you've got
South
your
Side Turnverein is right
Yes.
there. And Emmanuel Christ Church. Emmanuel Church of Christ.
yeah, and then you have your park.
That's
Yeah,
right.
we have a
and,
park up
Little
there.
park right
And
there.
Hendrick, the
Right.
horse installation made out of recycled tires.
Yes.
Is that the one that was in Marty's front
Yes.
yard?
That's right.
Yes.
That's the
I
one
didn't
Marty
know
built.
where it
Now
went.
moved. He's now moved, and we feel that it's his more permanent home. But he is an integral part of that gateway. He
Nice.
You
totally
haven't
is.
seen him?
A
So
lot of
he's if you
people.
go west on Morris Street, you can't miss him.
You can't miss him.
So when I first moved into the area, I had in my mind, and it's changed a little, but I still like the idea that there are, you look for key logs in an area. So
Which is?
So historical reference, back when people
Benchmarks,
were,
maybe?
no, back when people were foresting or deforesting the United
Yes.
States, and they would cut down logs and they would put them out into the rivers to send them downstream to the mills.
Okay.
So you'd get a log jam, as you could imagine. So there were very talented and skilled people who could go out and pick out the key logs where, okay, if we take out this one log, we're going to have a deluge, and all of these are going to go. So that's the idea, is that, okay, so what can we focus on that are key logs that if we disrupt, loosen up, the flood's going to move? So gateways are a good example of that, and that's kind of one of my philosophies when I try to do an effort that, okay, I'm going to do this little effort, but it's going to be a sign. People will see this. There's only so much that I can do myself, and so much that I can do with 20 to 50 volunteers. But then if I can get 100 people who live here to see this, or people who are thinking about moving to an area to say, wow, isn't that nice? This might be a good place to build a home, build a family. I may not have moved here if I didn't see Dino's Vino or Linton Calvert's building in the condition that it was in. That was the start of a community down here. There was a lot of rough parts, but I saw, okay, there's a few things. So then, in the same regard, if we do this big planting here, it's a big sign that shows people, hey, we are here, and we take pride in this place.
Something's happening that's positive and looks good.
That's right.
When we organize cleanups and when we get out and do an effort, a goal is always that people will come out, that you will see new neighbors, that someone who was not involved a week ago is out because they're either interested, they're seeing people out doing something, and they come out and they have that first point, that first conversation. The other thing that I will say that we've done is we go door to door. I mean, it's really just, we get that grassroots with our efforts because we want people to be aware, we want them to understand, we want them to know that they can also participate. And that only, does it always 100% work? No, but we have at least tried to make that effort and tried to engage new residents into the neighborhood. And I think that our social circle has only evolved and expanded. We love our community. We love our residents. These people are family to us in a sense. So that only makes it all the more better. Granted, of course, we would like that to grow, and you'd like to see more of those individuals who may they may not get out, they may not choose to attend a meeting. And one of the things that I think people need to realize is that you don't necessarily just have to go to a meeting, but what are you passionate about? Maybe people don't care about public space. Maybe people aren't that committed to, if you plant trees, then that's really pretty, but that's fine. But maybe they're interested in what new commercial development is happening, or maybe they're interested in the bike trails. Maybe biking is their thing, or maybe they're artists and they want to know how they can get involved. So it's finding what that niche is, because there is a community for that niche, whatever that niche is. There is a community of that here, I think. When we've done our cleanups, the last couple of years, it has been a little bit more, it's been more centralized. So it's been just our blocks here. And I'd like to think that because of that effort and because of what we tried to do 2-3 years ago now, and bringing some of these neighbors together, these neighbors are now getting out and doing more. And I'm not saying that you can contribute that all to Jonathan and myself, but they had a way. There was something that was presented, and they knew that they could come out and do this, and then they saw that they were able to make a difference. And so, and I'm happy to say that several of those individuals along our block are now really involved in the community and participating in some of the quality of life work and with SEND and some in our neighborhood association. So
the study circles put on by who making
that
connections.
was making connections. Yes,
those have been integral, I think, for engaging people on that sub-neighborhood level, block by block, of getting a block together, of people interested, either interested in an item, or maybe they don't even know what they're interested in. I think that's probably the case with ours, that we just decided to do a study circle, right? We didn't even really have an idea yet. And, but that got the most engaged and interested people together who would want to make a difference. And now it's so nice, we know our neighbors, I feel like, we go down the street, and in fact, while we were talking, I just saw one of our neighbors walking his dog down the street. We normally say hello, or I drive down the street and I'm always waving hi to my neighbors. And almost maybe I'm wondering if it gets old to them that I see this guy all the time, but
but no, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. Like I said, it is a community, and that's interesting when we talk about block by block. At times, you do have to do it block by block. It's the larger efforts. For example, our quality of life plan and the Congress and the neighborhood association, those community-wide meetings, they're always very important and essential. But a lot of times, that very focused effort, and maybe it takes a couple of people on a block to kickstart that, can really make a difference, because we are heavily involved, and we do. It's a choice that we make. It's a pastime for us. It's what we enjoy doing, and part of that is because we enjoy the people that we're around. When we walk into meetings, 100% of the time, do I agree with what every other resident in there says? Probably not. But at the end of the meeting, I can go up to them, give them a hug, ask them how their family is doing. If they've taken a trip that I've known about, well, how did that go or whatnot? And that's community right there. We don't always have to always get along. I may not always agree with you, but you're my neighbor and you're in this effort with me, and that's important. That's a common ground and a foundation that we have with people around us here in this neighborhood. I hope they all say the same things about me. I don't know if they would, but if you ask Jerry Keys, he may have something else to say. No. So I think it's only done for our personal lives, enhanced our personal life. It's something we do together. It's something this little guy will get out and do. I'm sure he'll just have to follow in our footsteps and go to the cleanups, even if he doesn't want to.
In the neighborhood meetings.
He'll probably complain to me, but eventually he'll learn to understand and appreciate.
Mom rules.
Mom rules. You got to come with me to this meeting. So I have nothing. My people outside of the neighborhood, my own family who don't live around here, are always very
aghast.
Yes, and I don't want to say impressed, because I'm not trying to I don't have an ego by any way, shape, or form. But however, it's not hard for me to explain why I do this, why we do this. It's because it's what we love to do. It's what we're passionate about, and the people are also what keeps us coming out as well.